of the year. Among issues discussed were relationships within the tripartite alliance as well as high levels of unemployment. For more, I'm joined by SABC News reporter Samkele Maseko. Samkele, thank you very much. When this started, it was touted as a possible showdown between the President, Cyril Ramaphosa, and the Secretary General, Ace Magashule, because he's facing criminal charges, because there was an earlier resolution that those facing criminal charges or corruption charges should step down. Did that showdown materialize at all?
Well, Francis, what we have essentially seen in this virtual National Executive Committee of the African National Congress is a very frank-speaking president of the African National Congress, Cyril Ramaphosa, particularly when you look at the political overview that he delivered this morning, which was sent out by the ANC this afternoon. For instance, let me quote the president of the ANC, quote, "Despite numerous resolutions and repeated pronouncements, unity within our movement remains elusive." He goes on further to say that the period following the 54th National Conference was characterized by a greater cohesion, unity of purpose within the organization, but now divisions are becoming more apparent and factions are emerging once again. These divisions are manifesting themselves not just in our structures, but also in public demonstrations of dissent and discord. End of quote. The president is essentially saying that the divisions in the African National Congress are running deep and that they are showing themselves, and that the ANC is perpetually being shown as an organization at war with itself. It goes on to speak about the National Executive Committee meeting that took place on the 28th to the 30th of August, where the ANC was unequivocal in decisions to fight corruption within their ranks and across society. The president of the ANC goes on to say that the ANC has seemingly played lip service to some of the resolutions that they have taken when it comes to the issues of fighting corruption.
But was the political future of Magashule discussed? Did Ramaphosa's allies push for him to step down?
Essentially, what has taken place is that the president of the ANC is saying that nobody would have thought that the ANC would be discussing some of the issues that they are discussing now. For instance, he goes on to say that a line in the sand had been drawn when it goes to that National Executive Committee of the 28th to the 30th of August. They did not speak specifically about the Secretary General of the African National Congress, Ace Magashule, but they spoke broadly of all the ANC leaders that have been embroiled in allegations of corruption and nepotism and also malfeasance. He goes on to say that the ANC is guided by a revolutionary moral conscience and political consciousness of their founding fathers and commitment to fight for freedom of all people of South Africa, and that the ANC is an organization espoused by integrity and honesty when it comes to society. For instance, he says that they've sought a legal opinion from 5 legal firms when it comes to the issues of the so-called stepping aside resolution of the African National Congress. For instance, let me just quote, get a direct quote on this quote. "But if we were to reflect on the proud and glorious history of our movement, and even more than a century, on the great leaders who have guided it through the most difficult period and perilous times, it is difficult not to see that these 5 legal opinions as an indictment of the movement we have become." End of quote. Essentially, the president of the ANC is saying that these 5 legal opinions that they have sorted when it comes to the issues of stepping aside of all leaders charged with fraud, corruption, and money laundering, which includes the Secretary General of the African National Congress, includes the likes of Bangani Pongo, NEC member and chairperson of former Force Portfolio Committee, includes people like the former MP and former chairperson of Correctional Service Portfolio Committee, Vincent Smith, former eThekwini Mayor Zandile Kumete, the incumbent member of the provincial legislature in KwaZulu-Natal, the likes of Michael Mabuya-Kulu, the deputy chair of KwaZulu-Natal, and various other councillors of the African National Congress, that the ANC needs to go through these 5 legal opinions, browse through them, and those whom are implicated in issues of fraud and corruption, their political consciousness must speak to them. The president of the ANC is saying that they can no longer just ignore issues of wrongdoing, and saying that there are those who stamp upon the ideals and the principles of the African National Congress, and they can't turn a blind eye on those particular individuals, and saying that an alien culture has creeped into the African National Congress, as it is more divided ever than before. He goes in without saying it himself, particularly to the various rallies that have taken place in court cases of ANC leaders when they've gone to court, the likes of the Secretary General Ace Magashule. You'd remember that the T-shirts of President Cyril Ramaphosa were burnt in Bloemfontein. So essentially, This political overview focused on the economy, focused on the political machinations within the African National Congress, focused on the stepping aside resolution of the African National Congress of the 54th National Conference in Nasrec, but he speaks broadly and boldly in saying that they can no longer ignore those who are doing wrongdoings, and the ANC needs to act without fear or favor. Some of the people that I've spoken to are essentially saying that the president has given the green light to those who are in his corner to effectively go after his political detractors who are currently in courts of law. We've seen various speculation in saying that those whom have been charged with fraud, corruption and money laundering will essentially be forced to step aside by the African National Congress with these 5 legal opinions that have been sought. But the proof will be in the pudding once the ANC concludes its National Executive Committee meeting, and once the Secretary General or the Deputy Secretary General or the entire top 6, just like we saw on that weekend of the NEC of the 20th to the 30th of August, where the entire top 6 briefed the media on the outcomes of the National Executive Committee. But judging from this political overview that was sent to us, it seems as if indeed the president of the ANC has reached his boiling point and is speaking out on the wrongdoings and all the factions that are emerging from the African National Congress and those who are essentially launching presidential campaigns to contest them come to the conference in 2022.
All right, thank you very much, Samkele Maseko. In summary, 5 legal opinions the ANC is digesting, but nobody being forced to or nobody voluntarily stepping aside for now. We'll follow how that tough talk from the president plays out.